Colin, thank you so much, not only for hosting us, but that gracious introduction. We are definitely joined by an all-star panel here today.
Great. Julie Honor, I'm General Counsel at 3Q Digital.
Hi, my name is Breen Sullivan, and I also am a career General Counsel who has created the legal functions at 3 separate companies.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta Raghunathan. I too have the scars of being a career GC that comes into companies without legal functions and then starts from scratch.
We're talking about implementing a CLM, and I guess the best place to start is, why did you decide to explore a CLM solution?
So I think the other panelists will have this experience as well, right? When you start in a company that's been around for a while, but that has never had a legal function, right? The first thing that you have on your checklist is like, look for the contracts, right? Post what I call contract amnesty date. Everything was named wrong. There was just no rhyme, reason, or organization to the structure. Let me impose some order to the chaos. The main requirement was that like a person like me, a person who's not going to spend a lot of time on implementation or coding or anything like that, I should really do this self-service, right? And so that was a requirement number one for me.
You need to be able to very efficiently negotiate and lock into place terms that are as consistent as possible across a really large customer base. And the single most important thing well, there's lots of things that are important in a SaaS model, but when it comes to contracting, you really want consistency in terms of the terms, and that's important, for risk. That's important.
As a services-based company, every minute that you delay in getting your services started is revenue that you're losing. So having the workflow capabilities of contract creation, real-time collaboration was something really important to us to figure out how can we create that. We found really great success with Parley Pro, and we're loving it. And once it's executed, having a really clear dashboard of what does your contractual world look like? What's expiring? Can you stay on top of it? Making sure that you're being a partner with the sales team.
But is there any more details that you would share when you're thinking about helping our audience understand, here's things to think about when choosing a CLM solution?
I think one really big thing to think about is who your clients are.
For me, really, it was analytics and reporting. In a startup, your life will largely be surrounded around fundraising. So I think the ability to very quickly, once you've done the hard work of tagging your contracts, really focusing on pulling the right reports so that you can very quickly respond to requests is really important. I think that's one of the big features that I liked from Parley Pro, was really that ability to, at a somewhat granular level, pull reports of different types of contracts. The rest of the business has KPIs, they have numbers that they show. And so I think general counsels, I think the most robust conversations I typically see on GC networks is like, how do I demonstrate the value of what I'm doing? Like, what are the metrics that you track, right?
When you're looking at embarking on the CLM adventure, understanding your true requirements of what you want a system to do. Does your finance team need something? What does your sales team need? What all of your internal clients, what are the functions and features that you need within a system to make sure you truly understand your process and map it out? Because putting technology on a crappy process is going to result in a continued crappy experience.
It's third-party paper, because you still have a lot of clients that insist on giving you addendums and giving you, attachments of one sort or another, and especially with privacy and security, which is, certainly anything connected to technology. So Parley Pro, given its flexibility and given its really, it feels like it's kind of built to assist with, to support that type of third-party additions being woven into your contracting paper and system.
You're not building a process in a vacuum. You're building a process across a company. Right. I remember when I onboarded Parley Pro, Lillian filled out the WISTIC form that our CISO requires, right? And that's an expectation. So having, I think, a platform that appreciates that they're going to have to go through a certain amount of diligence and is able to actually make it through that diligence is really important. The other one is just the API integrations as well, right? Nobody likes manual data entry. And so is there a way to import the data from the system that everybody uses, whether it be Jira or, Monday.com or whatever other systems they're using for project management?
Parley Pro had a lot of flexibility that we were able to bring in their different aspects of the workflow to make it really easy for us. Your workflow looks and your process looks versus what the tool is capable of doing and how much effort it's going to take to make it work for what you want it to do. Parley Pro ended up being really fantastic for us for that because it had so much flexibility there with us.
Saying there's probably a lot of listeners that have never implemented a CLM solution. Are there like table stakes that you have with the technology that you want to look at versus kind of nice to haves?
As you get closer with one solution versus another, you'll realize like where the holes are, where the missing pieces or the utility that, that one has but the other doesn't have. And then I've heard about Parley Pro really after we were mostly done with this RFP process, but it was so strongly recommended that I couldn't, and it was like such an authentic, like long email recommendation with like no skin in the game. Just like, I love this so much, I have to write a page about it. And we had the one demo and we were like, oh wait, now we've learned about all of the problems with all of these existing systems. And then Parley Pro, so we knew all the questions to ask because we knew exactly what the other ones were missing, and then Parley Pro had everything.
For me, like it had to be, like I feel like the RFP process could be long, but the implementation time had to be super short. My sort of greatest testament is that my CEO will like go into Parley Pro and like answer my comments. Like he's like, I'm going to use this tool, and he will not use a tool that he doesn't like. Getting your, probably the person that has the least amount of time to use your tool is like a fantastic testament to whether the product is, customer friendly.
One of the key things for us was ease of implementation. We have a fantastic tech team, but they are a small but mighty team. And so we wanted to make sure that we were utilizing our resources wisely. What are our end users looking for, right? So our end users were our internal clients of our C-suite. What type of dashboard do they want to be able to see to really make good, clear business decisions? And that would be to have a swift process that everything is all in one place instead of email and Drive and Slack and 6 other locations where you're having version control issues. We needed to get rid of that problem and have everything just live in one place.
Are there any questions that you would recommend our listeners ask a CLM vendor to help kind of hash out a little bit of the implementation? Is it just simple as like, how long is your implementation? It sounds like implementation time is something that's pretty important.
So if you get your statement of work from the CLM provider and you see an implementation fee or implementation cost, that should be a big red flag for you to understand, what is this? How long is it going to take? What resources are required on our end? What resources from us will you need to get this implemented? I don't have time to do a full-on CLM implementation on top of being a lawyer for the company. So it's really valuable to ask that question of like, what resources are needed.
But one has to do with legacy contracts. But you guys were willing, like you will actually take all of our legacy contracts and get them, like organize them and, tag, as long as they're in an Excel spreadsheet where, certain parts of those contracts are already flagged internally, you take it to that next level within your system. So then they're showing up on the dashboard. Otherwise, every other provider, we were like, okay, we're going to have to hire a temp. Like they're going to have to manually scan all of these things, like tag these things. And that's headcount. It's also just a pain. It also probably will never happen.
One piece that I do want to touch on, because I think there's a lot of folks that are going to be listening that are like, wow, a CLM solution would really save me a lot of time. It could be really powerful. However, you need to sell that internally, probably before you even start talking to any vendors. And maybe Sangeeta, we'll start with you. Just the idea of putting together an ROI for almost internal stakeholders to get them on board that this is something that's going to add value.
We are a fintech, so that means that we have a lot of third-party audit requirements that are imposed on us. Banking partners. I pitch that either I can have a team of people sitting here like going through flagging contracts and tagging them and constantly producing for very, very specific requests, or I could have a system where I could probably on a Friday night of the request comes in, probably turn that around by Saturday morning. Giving kind of real life examples of like, if you don't have this system, here's what the path would be versus if you have a system, here's what the path would be. And
if you view contracts as your like gateway to revenue, as I mentioned earlier, like every minute you can get a contract signed faster, or every renewal that you're on top of, or expiration date that you keep track of, that is revenue in the door. That is growth for your company.
Not only does it totally speed up the contracting process, but it also might make it easier for some clients to sign. You don't have a system like Parley Pro, and it can't just kind of look and feel like a SaaS contract, which is typically an order form with terms, incorporated at the bottom. But instead, it really looks and feels like a contract.
I'd be interested in just kind of like overall how you guys were all thinking about just managing risk during the CLM purchase process, if you will.
If Parley Pro were to not be there, it was very easy for us to pull all of our data and pull all of our contracts very easily. And the worst that would happen is we had a really organized system of contracts and an organized database that we could upload to another system. There are tools out there that it is like next to impossible to be able to get an organized database out of there when your contract's out there.